We're making pasta today. This is potentially life-changing information, so prepare your heart. Also, I know that carbs aren't exactly the cool kid on the block right now. I don't really care. I love them. So here we go, buckle up. So there are literally 3 ingredients to homemade pasta: flour, eggs, and salt. That is it. So this recipe is in my cookbook, but the recipe is also down in the show notes. So if you don't want to buy the cookbook, grab it down there. Of course, I would love you to buy the cookbook. And look, I'm even wearing the same shirt as I am in the cover, which shows you how often I refresh my closet. I use a bowl. The real pasta makers will put their flour right on their countertop and mix their eggs in there. I have enough messes in my life with 3 kids. I'm just gonna do this in a bowl. So first thing first, I'm going to take 2 cups of flour. You can use whole wheat, you can use all-purpose, you can use einkorn like I am, and then add in 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt. Mix that together with your fork, and then go ahead and make a little well in the center. Doesn't have to be perfect, just make a spot for the eggs to go. Now we're gonna crack our 3 eggs right into the flour. The way I like to do this is I start to beat the eggs right here in the middle, and then I'm gonna gradually just kind of scoop in a little bit of flour into the middle. We're getting closer. I don't think I can get much further with my fork, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to my fingers, and it's gonna get a little messy for a minute. Okay, now it's ready to knead. And I'm gonna put a little flour here on my counter and dump it right out. You wanna add enough flour to keep it from sticking to everything, but not so much flour that it just is really, really difficult to work. Now, if you get to this point and it's just dry and crumbly and you're not sure what the heck is going on, you can just add a little bit more water, like a 1/2 teaspoon at a time. Okay, it's coming together pretty nice. I really like this texture. It's nice and smooth. Feels really good. Now, if yours is really, really hard right now, don't give up. Just keep kneading. There have been times, depending on the flour I'm using or how big my eggs are, that it is super, super stiff and tough at this stage. And I just keep working it and it comes together and softens. Okay, I'm gonna stick it back in the bowl and I'm gonna cover it with just a little bit of plastic wrap to keep it from drying out. And I'm gonna let this rest. So we let the pasta rest to give the dough a chance to relax. That just means that it won't act like a rubber band as much when you go to roll it. Confession, there have been times in my life that I have skipped this resting step. And honestly, it turned out okay. But I would say for your first time, to reduce as much frustration as possible, let it sit on the counter for 45 minutes or so. All right, so while that's resting, I'm gonna run down to the chicken coop real quick to see if I can snag some eggs. So in this first part of the coop, we have our new laying hen chicks, and then in the middle part, it's our adult layers and the nesting boxes, and then over here on the side, it's the meat chicks who are doing their thing, and they're out of food, so I'm gonna top that off real quick. We sold 7 dozen eggs to a local grocery store this weekend, plus we have lots of local friends who need them, so every egg is precious at the moment. Okay, it's been an hour and the camera is really high. So we're gonna get out the pasta machine and do our thing. So if you do this once and you decide that you are going to make homemade pasta for the rest of your life, I would suggest getting one of these bad boys. I think they're about 30, 40 bucks, but don't quote me. They just make really pretty noodles, which some of you may value more than others. If you don't have a pasta machine, you don't want to get a pasta machine, we'll just use this instead. And I'll show you both ways here in the video. Okay, so the dough's rested about 45 minutes. I think it's pretty happy. I'm gonna take it out of the bowl and then divide it into 4 sections and just kind of eyeball it. Doesn't have to be perfect. So you want to kind of put your pasta maker on the edge of the counter where you can clamp it down. I'm gonna call in a kid because it's kind of nice to have an extra set of hands at this stage. I have this little piece of the dough, and I'm just gonna start out by kind of smushing it into a flat chunk. And I'm starting on the biggest thickness on the roller. Okay, go ahead. Okay, step 1. Now I'm gonna just go down to about the 5 on the width. Don't get hung up on the numbers. Just, I don't down. Do it till it feels right. That's helpful, huh? Okay, here we go. Round 2. I don't know if you can see, I'm just kind of folding it in thirds and just keeping it about the same size every time I pass it through. Now I'm gonna go down to a fork, and I just like to put my hand underneath to kind of catch it, to keep it from piling up like an accordion and sticking together. The cool thing about homemade pasta, it is fancy enough for you to serve to company and you will knock their socks off, but it's also a pantry meal. Like, this is basic, you guys. So if you just need something to feed your people on a Thursday night because they're expecting supper again, this will work, and it is not complicated. Okay, here we go. Now we're gonna cut. So go ahead and start turning. And I just wanna make sure everything is aligned. I'm gonna have my hands go under here to catch them as they come out. One part, keep going. It's fine. A lot of folks will hang their noodles to dry, which you can on coat hangers or like a rod or a rack. I'm gonna use these tonight for supper, so I just put them in a very well floured cookie tray and just kind of roughed them up until they're all very well coated, because the danger here is they will clump together into a giant noodle dumpling, and you don't want that. All right, I'm just gonna take my last quarter here and show you how I would do this if I didn't have a pasta maker. I'm gonna roll this baby down to as thin as humanly possible, because when you cook this pasta, it will puff up. It's not pretty, but this is close enough, and I want you to appreciate how thin this is. This is like see-through thin. Now we're gonna cut this into thin strips, as thin as possible. I would suggest using a pizza cutter for this job if you have one. I personally do not own a pizza cutter because I have bought 3 of them in the last couple of years and they've all broken. So now I am boycotting them. So I'm just using a giant chef's knife, which I feel like is probably not an appropriate tool for this job, but this is where we are. All right, it's a while till supper time, so I'm gonna just cover this with a dish towel and let it sit on the counter.